I couldn't, my memory is
Fine.
terrible.
We are live.
Okay, it is September 20, it is not, it's October 26th today. We'll open up the EDA meeting. I have too much in front of me.
Hello, good evening. I feel like it's been a while since I've seen you guys. I missed you.
Yeah. Can we get,
Motion to approve minutes of the September 28th, 2022 meeting.
Second.
motion made second, to accept the September 28th EDA minutes. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Approved or opposed? Motion's carried. Now you got it.
Awesome, all right. So to kick us off, I just wanted to give a quick date on the facade program. I know that at the last meeting that I was not at, the council decided to kind of suspend approving any more funds for it until we've kind of evaluated the position we're in. So just to kind of give a recap of where we're at for the spending in 2022, $5,000 have been paid out to businesses who had put in a facade improvement application. So we paid out to Don's Food $2,500 for the door replacement, and then another $2,500 already to the Corner Bar and Grill for their window replacements. And then we have committed another $10,000 to business applicants, and those are still pending payment. So some of those have been made in the past 2 months. So we may not actually end up paying those out for until 2023, just what they have 12 months to kind of complete their projects. So we've committed or paid out $15,000 this year. I would recommend going forward, maybe we set kind of an annual budget for what we want to spend on the program. That way, you know, once we reach the capacity, we know we're not giving out any more applications, and we can kind of track the spending easier versus waiting and kind of determining, well, we feel like we've given out a lot this year, maybe we shouldn't do any more. So I would recommend maybe setting a budget for 2023 for the program, but that's my recommendation, and I'm open to suggestions of what you would want that budget to be, or how much funds the city would like to commit to improving the downtown business facades.
So, at the last meeting, we suspended anything with that till March.
March, yes.
And so I would think maybe at that time we look at it again as far as, you know, like I say, setting a budget and what we can do or what we should do. So,
Yeah. That works for me. Great. So I'll just put it on the agenda, and I'll plan to put it on the agenda back in March, and then we can kind of look at the 2023 budget, and then, you know, going forward, what we'd like to see as our annual budget. That works. Great. And then I know we've also talked about the guidelines, so I wanted to give a little update on that. I did compare Good Hughes guidelines with communities that have very similar programs. So I looked at Claremont, Jackson, Casson, Lewiston, and Mitch sent me over there for Pine Island as well. Some of the other communities had almost identical language to Good Hughes initial guidelines. So my understanding is that, you know, it kind of may have been a template provided by a state agency or someone along those lines. So we should be in compliance. The attorney is currently reviewing it just to double check everything's good. And I did make just a couple of edits, but once I have the feedback from the attorney, I'll present the final guidelines for approval. So those are still pending, but based on what other communities are doing, I feel like our guidelines are relatively standard. So I don't anticipate too many changes coming out of that either. So moving on to the park updates. I did go over to Pine Island to look at the play space that used the tires in. I included a picture in your packet. It was actually really nice. It looked really good. But I did notice that they still had playground equipment that coincided with the tires. So I am going to start seeking donations from, you know, local farmers or ag partners to see if maybe we can get some tires donated, but then also continue to see if maybe we could get a swing set or something to kind of go along with it to make it a more complete park. My plan is, before I approach J.C.'s or Lions about funding, I'm just going to get some bids and see how much, you know, a swing set would cost as an individual thing before I start asking for donations. So I'm just going to go out and kind of get a general idea of the costs associated with that, and then see if there are donations or grants that we can apply for something to kind of coincide with the tires. But I thought it looked really nice, and I think they did a good job on Pine Island. And if, you know, we feel like that's something we want to pursue that would be low cost and something a little bit different, I think that's a good option. And I also have spoken with Public Works. Jason actually took me around town and kind of showed me around a little bit. We talked about alternative locations for a dog park. I know there had also been conversations in the past about potentially having a community garden. It didn't seem like there was a whole lot of community interest at the time. So if we think there still wouldn't be any interest, then I won't pursue that. But just kind of looking at other options to provide different or new park amenities to the community. I know there's that Central Park location kind of in the middle of town that's grass, so maybe pickleball courts or something there would be really cool and fun and provide a new amenity for the community. So just again exploring more park options and seeing how we can provide new services or amenities for the community. And if anyone else has like suggestions or cool ideas, I'm open to hearing those as well. Yes.
Have you looked into funding for people on the dog park and get a response on that line?
I have not looked at funding for the dog park. I do know that, I believe it was 2 years ago, Smith does an annual small town grant. It's for $10,000. And I know 2 years ago they did award a community that $10,000 to build a dog park. I also know in the other community I work in, Lake City, they're looking at doing a dog park, and their quote for to build out the entire dog park was $12,000. So if we wanted to wait and maybe, I believe the Smith Small Town Grant opens up in the spring or the summer. So if we wanted to wait and apply for $10,000 and we could come up with the other $2,000, I think that would be a really great funding opportunity for a dog park. Based on the feedback we got from the community, it seemed like people wanted it. That was just not the right location. So we're able to identify something that people are more receptive to. I think the $10,000 grant would be a good opportunity for Good Hill. Yeah. And I can also look at other quotes as well. I'm not sure how big the Lake City Dog Park was, so if ours is a little bit smaller, maybe there'd be less fencing and we could cover the entire cost with $10,000. Great. So the next update, I heard there was a little bit of conversation about the Goodhue Housing Rehab Program through SEMCRA. So I did meet with Nick Coverman. He is the Community Development Director at SEMCRA, and we were able to kind of chat about the program a little bit, so I just have a better understanding of what was being offered here in Goodhue. In your packets, I believe there should be a map of the target area. So that map identifies all of the homes. So basically the homes within kind of the outline are what would be eligible for the program. Funding is available in the form of a deferred loan for owner-occupied properties, so rentals are not eligible for the program. Loan amounts vary based on the percentage AMI that the applicant is, but essentially year over year, the payment amount is reduced 20% until the end of the 10th year when the loan is forgiven and essentially becomes a grant. In order to qualify for the funding, applicants must, again, live in the targeted area of the map, have a property that is a permanent structure and suitable for rehab. So there are some rehab requirements. For example, someone who maybe doesn't have a fully functioning HVAC system could apply for the grants, but if you live in a housing almost that's too nice to qualify, then you would not be able to access funding for your projects. So it has to be some type of almost substandard housing, or you need to have a repair that qualifies through the program. The homeowner must also be current on property taxes and insurance and not have any outstanding judgments against them. And then I included that kind of income guidelines parameters for you in the recap as well. So you can see based on family size, the difference you'd have to be at or below that income level to qualify for the program. So it seems like a great opportunity for people to make updates, especially people who maybe can't afford to pay for an update up front or repair up front. So my plan is to do some type of targeted marketing, put together a flyer, and either do some type of mailing to those homes or even just go drop it off at people's houses. I'm also hoping to put together a formal press release for the newspaper, and maybe getting some information on the city website as well. So I'm getting all of that kind of typed up and compiled so we can start marketing the program. Also, SEMCRA has a really great staff, and they, if there's someone who's interested, they're happy to call them and explain the program, walk them through the application process, that stuff. So SEMCRA themselves are a really great resource, and I'm excited to work with them and hopefully get these funds put to use in town and get some updates made for people who may need them.
So I'll just, we had a text today about maybe a representative coming in and speak to us. Is that right, Jill?
Yeah, they had been given more money than what they originally had thought.
Mhm.
And I don't think I printed it off just because I was already giving you like 5 more sheets other than what I had sent off in the previous 2 agendas.
Yeah.
So that's something that I can share with you too. I'll send you
Perfect.
the information unless somebody has it
I
handy.
guess I was thinking it would be good for them to come. I mean, you guys have never talked to me before, right, both of you, and haven't heard from them, and so I thought it might be a good idea. Okay.
I can reach out to Nick and see if he'd be able to come maybe to an EDA meeting, just at the 6 o'clock portion and share some more information and introduce himself. Absolutely. Yeah. Great. Okay, so just a couple more updates. So just a really quick recap of the regional development tour. Back on September 28th, Goodhue participated in CEDA's annual RDT, where we had a bus full of developers and site selectors, investors, bankers come to town, and we got to give them a little tour and showcase some of the community assets in Goodhue and highlight different development opportunities. There were 2 developers who explicitly expressed interest in opportunities in Goodhue, which was really great. So I'm actually meeting with one of them on Friday, and I'm following up with the second one as well, just to kind of start some conversations and see where that may go. So overall, I think it was a really great exposure for Goodhue. It was a really fun tour. Josh was there and kind of waved at the bus as we drove by. But people had a really good time, and even Lake City was one of the other communities, and even my board president had really complimentary things to say about Goodhue. He was super impressed. We're not that far away, and he was like, Goodhue seems like it's a community that's really engaged. Just in the community, a lot of community members are engaged, and they have, people seem to really like to live here, and more people are moving here. So lots of good feedback on the community, and it was very exciting.
Still waiting.
For
My clip.
Yes, okay, I will send that to you. That was the other thing. I was like, Mitch did say one other thing to me when I talked to him on the phone. I will send that to you.
You might as well tell them what it is.
The video clip?
Yeah, about the video on that for that.
Yes. So we did get, so CEDA had come and done kind of some filming around town. And they interviewed Carrie, and so we have the video that I'm happy to share with the board if you guys want to watch it. It's on YouTube. It's like a 2-minute little kind of promotional clip, and it highlights some different things about the community. So I'm happy to share that.
Yeah, you told me to get it right away, and I'm still waiting.
Blame Mitch, don't blame me.
Oh.
Blame Mitch for that one.
When we were in Pine Island, I did.
So the other, there is a potential new development as well that's not related to the RDT. I was recently informed about a business that's looking to expand and potentially build a new facility in town. So I'm following up with them as well. So lots of good potential new developments, which is very exciting to hear. So the wastewater treatment grant funding. So at the last meeting I was present at, there was kind of some discussion about looking into grant opportunities to help fund the cost of replacing the current wastewater treatment plant. I know there at one point had been kind of a regional effort to get some bonding through the state, and that had kind of fallen through. It's not clear to me if that is going to, be an opportunity in the near future, but if not, I actually, okay.
You're moving forward with it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But we're sitting on the fence because you don't know if we're gonna get the money.
Right.
from the
Absolutely.
legislature, but yeah, it's going on.
Perfect. Well, that's good to know. So I think, if we are able to get through the cycle and see if we're awarded funds, we can hold off on, trying to apply for grants. And if not, I did talk to Reese, and he said he, top of mind, has some grants that he think could even help fund the entire project. It's about $78 million. So I think between, me looking into things and Reese looking into things as well, hopefully we'll be able to identify some grant funding opportunities and put in competitive applications. So based on how the bonding goes, we can revisit this, but I just want to kind of give an update that I'm going to be looking out and tracking and seeing if there's money that the city can access. Alrighty, so then the CEDA contract. The 2022 CEDA contract was presented to the board at the meeting last October for approval. So I just want to kind of follow the same timing cadence. I'm going to present the 2023 CEDA contract for approval. I believe that agreement for professional services was included in the packet as well. The 2023 rate for 8 hours of service every other week is $14,157. So that would be about a little less than $1,200 a month. So that is presenting that to the board.
That is something we need a motion on.
Yes, and if you wanted to table it until November, we don't necessarily need it tonight, but we will need a motion in a second.
What does everybody think?
Personally, I think we should stay with it.
I think she's kind of looking into stuff. You know, that's something that we're not gonna do.
Oh, there's a ton of time involved in getting granting and stuff, and there's a lot to it.
Mhm.
Just something simple.
Right, this is, if we do get them businesses in town, I mean, that's paid for stuff like that.
I think the grant aspect of it is huge. For the grant aspect. I'll make a motion to approve the contract for CEDA for another year.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second to approve the CEDA grant or contract for another year. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried.
Awesome.
You got it?
Great, thank you. And also, just in case anyone is ever questioning it, there is in the contract a 30-day out, and that's not 30 days within signing. It's at any point. If you want to get out of the contract, you just have to give a 30-day notice. So, you sign an annual yearly contract. If at any point you said you're not satisfied with CEDA's work, or, we don't get grant funding or whatever, you can always revisit it and just give us a month. Okay, great. Well, then the last thing I have is the November calendar for when I will be working in town. So I will be here on the 9th, and I believe I'm moving the EDA meeting up from what would be the 23rd to the 9th, so I'll be here in just a couple of weeks for the November meeting. And then I'll be back in town the November 30th also, and I'll be in town that day. So I'll be around, and if you guys need me any time in between those, feel free to reach out. Awesome.
Well,
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thanks, Bob.
Anything else coming before the EDA? Motion adjourned.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn the EDA meeting. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. We'll go into the council meeting, stand for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mayor, I hate to interrupt. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear us?
I can.
Okay.
I don't see you, but I can hear you.
I turned on my video. I'm not sure what, we have an odd connection right now. I can hear you and I see myself on my screen, but you apparently can't see me and I can't see you, so
Now I see you.
I'm not sure if oh. Okay.
You're in your car. It looks like you're having fun.
Hey, Joe, the bottom left corner of the start video is called red light. We can get that.
Oh, yeah, no, I started my video and I can actually see myself, as though I'm in the meeting, so anyway. All right, that's fine. I just want to make sure I was here.
Yep. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Motion made and second to approve the agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Approve the meeting, approve the meeting minutes from October 12th. Do I get a second? Motion made and second to approve the minutes of October 12th. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Old business. don't think there was any.
So we have the Hernandez Maltese property.
Oh, yeah.
So in your packet, you'll see the two neighbors, the variances, that they had gotten. And then there, you were separately emailed a letter. I did print it off if anybody needs to review it, but this is a document and it says that the document to get the two parcels in the same ownership has been recorded. As I type this, the taxes have been paid and the parcels are now joined and approved. And then he gave the parcel number to be an all-in-one, and that's signed by Donald Mitchell, who is the land use management records coordinator. So it's all in the process of it, and then they have the variance. So
that's ready to be approved. But I would make a motion that we approve the permit for Hernandez Maltese property.
Do I got a second?
I'll second.
Motion made second to approve the Hernandez property and building permit. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. Do we get the other one too then? Or did we do that last
we
time?
did it all last time.
Okay, just this one.
And so I put number 6 on there, the water tower mixer, and I just guess I never did talk to Jason about it. I don't know if you guys are ready to make a decision on that, or if you needed, so that's why that one is on there, because I know that we didn't make a decision last time. But if you don't want to, like if we can just have it targeted next time that you want to bring it up, so I don't just keep putting it on there, so. If anybody had any time to.
I guess I have a tower I've ran for the last 6 years without a mixer and without a research pump, and I never had a problem. But at the same time, the usage that I deal with is so much greater. I've never worked in a normal town. Down there, we use so much water all the time, it's extremely different. Now, talking a little bit to Jason about it, I think we'd be fine, but at the same time, I need to do a little more research personally, to dig into it. I just.
You want to table it till
Can I
tonight?
argue for what it's worth?
Yeah, certainly.
I think we should, go ahead and table the idea, because we do use enough water that we probably aren't gonna have trouble with freezing. And recent developments that we've had in the last week or so, I think we should, look at other options than what we have going with that mixer. We have better things to spend our money on.
Yeah, that was 17,000 with wiring, wasn't it?
And I think that
That's a
if
lot.
what I talk about tonight could possibly help with that issue itself. I mean, granted, you're still gonna get some ice buildup like they talked about, but taking that $18,000 and putting it into a mixer, maybe we'll be able to control it better with other options that are out there.
100% agree
But
on
by
that.
just controlling the amount of flow that we have in and out of the tower in winter, bringing it down a couple feet.
Yeah, just leave it lower level and keep adding, yeah.
Correct, and that's the whole philosophy on keeping, before we had mixers, the whole philosophy was, if you're turning over your tank once a day at minimum, and you're moving your water, you're gonna get buildup on the sides, that's inevitable, because it's cold. But if you're keeping your bowl to be moving all the time, then the majority of ice will not build. And that's basically what Jason's alluding to with what development.
Because thin layers of ice up there aren't gonna be damaging.
No, not at all,
It's
not at
just when
all.
it gets real far.
And talking with all the other communities around here, I talked with Red Wing and I talked with Road also, they do not have them, they do it with control of the water.
Mhm.
Now, we did talk about some of the issues that he talked about that the state may want one, that could happen. But even if it does happen, you'll have years before you have to really
Yeah,
get it done. And by that time, our tower will probably need to be, refurbished. From the research I did this week, and I was off a couple days last week, so, what I learned in the last 3 days, I think you should table that issue
I agree, I think we should table it until, I think the next meeting would. we'll give
That package then.
Absolutely. I agree.
Okay, so you make a motion to table it?
I make a motion to table the mixer for the water tower until the, next meeting.
I'll second.
Motion made and second to table the water tower mixer. All in favor, say aye.
Alright,
Mayor,
Yes,
are we still under old business?
well, we can go back.
Sorry, Chris Keith was helping me understand how to get to see you, and now I can. And I guess I have one item under old business that I named.
Actually, we still are under old business yet, yeah.
Okay. But is this an appropriate time?
Sure.
Okay, yeah, sorry. So, council has previously directed, I think, myself and Jill, to work on, sort of pulling together your city code that appears on your website, along with, a number of ordinances that also appear on your website. And, we had a plan of action for sort of focusing on snow-related, ordinances first. To do that, I think, and now I'm gonna speak for Jill, so Jill, be prepared to speak for yourself here in a second, but I think we've sort of discovered that project, the project of updating your city code, pulling in the ordinances that also appear on your website, and sort of pulling that together into a cohesive, document that's available to the public is a bit bigger project than sort of I anticipated. And not to get too far into the weeds, but apparently there is not a electronic Word version of the city code that's available to Jill, to staff. And some of the ordinances that are on the website are actually photocopies of publication of ordinances, and others photocopies of newspaper clippings. And so sort of pulling this all together, I think it's going to be a bit bigger project than I had sort of anticipated. And I don't have a proposal for knocking that down right now. I just want to make this council aware you'll have a new council come next year. And so I just want to put down a marker about that issue. It may be that the city wants to take a look at a codification service, because of course there are companies that actually do this kind of work. My firm could do it, but I don't want to suggest that we're the only or the best or the cheapest way to do it. We may not be any of those things. So I just want to lay that out there. I think we do need to nail down your zoning code or your zoning ordinance provisions and your subdivision ordinance provisions. That's a relatively short-term thing that I think Jill and I need to work on. But beyond that, it's a bigger project than maybe I had anticipated. And so I just want to say that, and I don't think it's an action item. Happy to answer questions, happy to have council make comments about that, but I'll stop there.
Would it be possible, I mean, are you talking about getting these into a type pages? Is that what is part of it?
Yeah, so Mayor and council members, typically when a city again moves from the days of having just independent ordinances, Ordinance 101, Ordinance 207, various numbered ordinances, and when a city moves to having those all pulled together into a code book, you want to, the code book should be an electronic file that can be amended easily, right? Somebody can go in and actually make changes to it after the council approves those changes. So it should be an electronic file. It's a single electronic file that can be dealt with. Number one. And number two, and this is a little bit more nuanced, ideally a code would use the same terms, right? Throughout the code, we wouldn't refer to the city as the city and then the municipality in a different ordinance and the government in a different ordinance and the state in another ordinance. And So in other words, we would try to get the code, the thing that people would read to understand what the laws are in your city, the city of Goodhue. We would try and get the terms to make sense. And we try to get the formatting to be the same, right? From section to section in the code, we would want to have titles and sections and individual paragraphs that are all kind of lined up and look the same from provision to provision, and that's a fair amount of work. And so it's not up to me to decide if you want to do that or not. But I have to say, it's not typical for a city to have some laws in a code book that's available on the website, and then have some laws that are in an ordinance or ordinances, plural, that are available on the website, and then also have some ordinances that are just photographs of pages from the newspaper where those ordinances were published. So the way your laws are set out right now for the public is not typical. And so that's not up to me to decide how to fix that. It's up to you, and it's going to cost money. So it's really up to you. So I'm just letting you know that, and I don't know the right way to fix this now that I've understood where we are. I just want to make council aware that there is an issue there. A future council, probably after the election and a new council is seated, is going to have to make some judgments about how we're going to do this.
Okay.
So then what do you do with the early ordinances that don't have anything to do, I mean, they're good for historical things, but are they included in that too? You know, like you can only park your team of horses on one side of the street.
Yeah.
And angle park your cars 45 degrees when the cars came in.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and just like with state laws or frankly federal laws, the right way to deal with those kind of things is that as laws become antiquated, you should either repeal them or you should amend them to make them updated, to make them current, to make them apply to today. And yes, that is part of the exercise. You're right, council member. There are probably some ordinances on your website that either don't make sense today or are just totally inapplicable. Where you park a horse on the main street is probably not a relevant ordinance anymore. So
and I've been going through some of them, and there's quite a number that aren't applicable. Yeah. So, and that's a good thing, I think, for the amount of change that's going to have to happen. That some of it we just don't need to do. Well, I don't know if we have to repeal them or whatever.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is, and this is why it's not the lawyer's decision to make, it's the council's decision to make. The reality is, as I think we all know, there are plenty of laws, whether they be federal laws or state laws, that at this point are just ignored, right? They just don't, no one thinks that they really apply anymore, and everyone ignores them, and no one tries to enforce them. But that's not a good way. In a city like Goodhue, you don't have to operate that way, right? It's not like you have 10,000 laws. You don't have that many ordinances, and you could make your ordinances all be relevant and meaningful and get rid of the ones that aren't. The federal government can't do that, right? There's just too many laws at this point. It would take a massive undertaking to update everything, and probably true of a lot of cities around the state. But Goodhue is not one of those. You certainly could have your laws reflect things that actually apply and get rid of the stuff that doesn't. It's just that it's, there's an effort to be done there, and I'm not sure how you exactly want to do that. So I don't want to try to answer the question right now. I guess I just want to let this council know that that's something that Jill and I have talked about, and I know Councilmember, you've been working on it too, and that will be something that we have to wrestle to the ground here at some point.
Well, thank you.
Like when? I mean, what's a timeline on that? Are we looking at maybe over a couple of years or 2 months or something?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And Jill and I have talked about that question too. I mean, I guess now you're kind of asking me to get over my skis a little bit and give you apart from my lawyer advice, my sort of what I've experienced in other cities. I mean, there are a certain number of ordinances, and maybe an example would be, you know, as winter approaches, your snow-related ordinances, your parking-related ordinances. I mean, that was a good place to start, given where we are in the season. That's not a crazy way to go at this. I mean, that would make sense to go at it that way. I will tell you that from my view, from a lawyer's view, getting to know exactly what your zoning requirements are, what the council intends your zoning requirements to be, and what your subdivision requirements are, how someone can come in and subdivide farmland and build a new residential development on it. Those to me are the lowest hanging fruit. We ought to get those fixed quickly. And then the timing for completing the whole thing, council member, I mean, if you literally wanted somebody to come in and fix everything, that undertaking would be probably a 6-month project, and would probably cost the city, if you used not my firm, used Unicode, which is one of the codification companies, is a more than $10,000 undertaking. So I don't want to suggest that you want to go at this, that the next council will want to go at this all at once. You may want to break that up into pieces and do that over a period of a couple of years so as not to hit your budget so hard. Because it's a big, I mean, it's, you know, even for Goodhue, where you don't have 10,000 ordinances, it's a big undertaking to pull everything together, get everything to be the way the council wants it, and have it written out in a single code book in a sensible way.
Thank you.
Right.
You got anything else you want to ask him?
What were you gonna say?
That's all I had here.
So I was gonna bring up the fact that Patrice has come in and she's flagged them. She's found what orders, where they are in the book. And she's started writing the table of contents. So again, like he has said, him and I have talked about it. And I didn't know at which point either if I was gonna bring it up or he was gonna bring it up. But the truth of it is I don't know all of the ordinances. It's not fully my job to know all of the ordinances. But do you know how much easier life is gonna be for any council that's here? I mean,
It's time.
we're as people come and go through here, and as people don't stay more than one election and one term, you know, we don't have the history, and so we need to get these into the computer and in writing. It worked for so long, and you know, there's only one copy of it, so that means that not everybody here knows every ordinance. I just certainly don't know every ordinance, but as was stated, Patrice has looked through them, dusted them off. There's a good share that's not needed at all, and ultimately, you guys need to make the decision. We need to get them documented and then amended or obsolete. So we need to figure out who's going to do this, and the sooner the better. Not fully just waiting even for the next council.
No, but I think you're right. And it's gotta be somebody that's not up for election, which is you and Jason. So if you're doing it, Patrice, you're doing a good job at it.
Right.
Well,
So you can pick away at it a little bit by
Yeah.
little. Right.
Then after the next council gets in, then you can work on it more forward.
And so, you know, with that being said, is yes, finding the prioritizing them and which ones that you want to do first. Some of them I can sneak in, right? I can sneak in my day to be able to do some of them. But for me to take on 200 ordinances in the next 2 years or next 6 months, I mean, I'm sorry, that's just crazy. It's just not going to happen. I'm not saying that you need to go get a firm, hire a big person out, but if you could come up with some ideas. I know that some council has suggested that maybe we could hold of somebody from the school. Maybe a student wants to come down here and do some work service and do some typing, or open it up to somebody that wants a part-time job for a certain number of hours. I guess you don't really obviously have to make a decision on it tonight, but just come up with some thoughts and ideas. Because the sooner that we get it in, and I've talked about this to Lori too, and I was like, and she's like, every once in a while for 13 years, I wanted to do this, but when do we fit it into our day?
You don't.
Yeah.
You do not have the time.
So it's getting that thought process into how you want to handle getting it into writing, but really prioritizing it, because if you can prioritize, if the council can make the decision to prioritize some of them, then at least I can flag them and type up a paragraph or two a week, whatever, and get them rolling and get them going. And then if we get somebody in here part-time, one day a week, a couple hours, a student service.
So do these have to follow a certain
No.
a form or
Well, so what
the code book?
and Bob can help me out here too, but I think what we're gonna have to do is literally take them from what it is on that newspaper, because that's what it is, and then it's gonna go to Bob, and then he's gonna take a look at it, and then help us conform it into 2022's terminology, and then add to it if the state has different laws with it, and totally update it. So it needs to come from what is on that newspaper, and then get it updated. So it's,
So we literally need to take the newspaper, type it up, send it to Bob. Him and his firm would then look at it and say, okay, well, can't use this verbiage and everything else, and then
yeah,
we
so,
would approve the amended.
yeah, and because that's what he did with the fence one, and just got it into more verbiage that is more understandable. And, because what worked in maybe, say, 1980, whatever that ordinance was made, we're, how many years ahead of it, so.
Sounds like we're kinda on track with an idea of how to do this.
Yeah, we're moving it along, so, we just need to keep the train moving, so. Okay,
Okay.
I guess, anything else, Bob?
Yeah, totally unrelated to this, that sounded good, and this will be a little bit of a thing we're probably gonna have to take bites at over a period of time. It's not gonna happen all at once. That all sounded good. Now, unrelated to that, has been pointed out by the mayor, I'm in my car, I'm sitting in front of my house, I'm going to go into my house now and connect to you on a better computer, and I just wanna let you know that's why I'm disconnecting my video, and I'll be back in 3 minutes, so.
Perfect.
Sounds
That's what I wanted
good.
to let you know.
Okay, thank you.
All right.
I guess Reese didn't come. Do you want me to read what he had said, or do you
Well,
want to take it?
Does everybody look and see what Reese has here?
Yeah, it really isn't much updated from
Well,
what we said last time, so, other than the construction update maybe.
So, didn't he receive the warranty bond for?
So it was a different formula that what Fitzgerald had submitted, and now I've worked for a month now with Fitzgerald to getting the correct one, and I'm not hearing any response, so.
Okay, so we can't do that yet.
Do you know why they weren't here yesterday with the curing of the curb, or?
No,
They
the
didn't show it all?
cement guys,
Huh?
so I've been calling Gary every day,
Yeah.
talking Jacob with ISG.
Yeah.
The cement guys are in Redwood now, Chippewa. Fitz did not have anybody that could come into town yesterday. They came for a while and forced some drivers out, and they left. They came back, they worked all day today. They tore out the spots around town.
I did see somebody working there when I got down to work
You know,
tonight.
and then
That was at
up
5:30.
on 11th Street, there was one, or not 11th Street, 3rd Avenue, there's one. They did them, got them ready for the concrete. They're gonna do 2 more tomorrow. I talked to Fitz. They're supposed to be here either late tomorrow or Friday to put the castings on and finish the concrete curves. The curve is cured. Monarch was here this afternoon, I don't know if Jill saw that. That was at like 3:30. Monarch is planning to come Monday, Tuesday next week and lay down the asphalt. If Fitzgerald gets the castings and the concrete done. But as, according to Jason, who I talked to at 3:30, 3 o'clock, they plan on getting that all tore out, formed up and ready.
What does it take to, pour those driveways?
It's gonna take a lot. They gotta grade them, they had to cut them out,
They gotta form them up.
they gotta form them up, and the concrete guys gotta do all that, so I'm sure there'll be a day of forming. But they move pretty fast because it's Chippewa, they're big. I still, I'm not showing the red flag yet, though I'm starting to get nervous. That it's getting later, but.
Yeah.
When talking with Jacob, Gary, Jason, they seem to think they can get it all done. So I can't speed it up any faster, because we're really, basically waiting on these concrete guys. But once they come into town, they should get it done really quick.
I talked with Reese and he doesn't really have a upset about it either.
No.
He thinks it should go, so
It should.
I've gotta listen to him too on
I
that.
have not talked to Reese, because I've been emailing Jacob, he's the project, he's the guy in the job. So, and he's been talking to Reese and filling me in, so we're trying.
Yeah, no,
They're gonna have to probably do a few things in the spring, to finish up, I'm sure. But if they can get the driveways in and the castings and stuff poured in, they should be able to finish up most of
the
it.
paving, yeah,
Right.
maybe the big thing.
That's not gonna be a big job for Monarch. I don't even know if it'll take them all day.
Well, I know they were here today, they weren't here yesterday.
Yeah, they've
And I
been.
just didn't know why, the different wire, what was going on with that, so why they weren't.
No, we're stirring them.
Yeah. No painting.
No, that's fine.
The North Broda Sanitary District, Jason, Patrice and I went down to it. We got to listen to them. We had one representative that says, I hope you get it, but he wouldn't commit to say if you'd vote for it. So they're gonna look in for the federal also. And it all depends. I mean, the thing that gets me is one side blames the other side. I just talked to them both. I says, get off of that and start working together. I mean, that's the only way it's gonna ever work around anymore, so. I don't know if I got through or not, but it was a good meeting otherwise, for the most part. Anything else on that, Patrice?
Well, there was a meeting today, and they talked about, well, I gave you, Jill handed out a sheet, and I can't find mine. But anyway, it's what the, what do you call them? Lobbyists are gonna cost.
Yep.
This was they did this one and it's just way too expensive. So they're gonna ask 2 or 3 others and see if this is, is this how much it's gonna cost, or can we get something else? So they're talking $5,250 a month. That would be divided among the 4. So that's like,
For 6 months.
well, they were talking, well, is it 6 months or from November through June? Okay. So I don't know, they're gonna try to do something different, which I think is good.
And that's to pay the lobbyists just to help?
That's a lobbyist, yeah. So hopefully they'll get up there and be able to, get people interested in this. They also talked about keeping $10,000 out and that they would use that as a incentive for them to get the job done. And if we got the money, then they would give them the $10,000. So.
And I'm not sure if this is the correct question to be asking here, but the other towns that are in on this, do you guys know if they're wanting to continue to doing this?
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
you know an answer to it?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
Yeah.
they do, but just.
Yeah,
give
because
the
they were at the
person-
meeting today.
okay.
Yeah.
I was just curious if we were the only train that was wanting to say, hey, come with us and do it, because you've made conversation about the alternative, doing it different. I was just curious if you've read into them, the others.
Oh, yeah.
Because otherwise that would be throwing money into the wind and, yeah, okay.
No, just gotta keep at
Yeah,
it.
so Mayor and Council, if I may speak.
Yes,
Okay, so as you know, I represent Pine Island as well. And I did mention to Elizabeth, the administrator in Pine Island, that, you know, I was aware of this proposal. And I don't want to not share with you what I shared with her, which is that my only concern about this, obviously, whether you want to use a particular firm to help you with lobbying for this is entirely up to you. I have no input on that. And whether the price that they're proposing makes sense or not, that's entirely up to you. I would just say that I would like to see the agreement, the proposal that you accept, if that's what you're going to do. Make it clear that no city, none of the 4 participating cities are responsible for more than 1/4 of the costs. Because as I understand it, there is not a written agreement between the cities about how this cost is going to be divided. So I think the idea is that the cities would split the costs evenly. And if that's true, I would just want to make clear to the law firm in this case, or whatever firm is going to give you a legislative representation, make clear that you're not going to be responsible for more than 1/4 of their bill. Yeah, I would hate to see them be charging $5,000+ a month, and then have seek that from one or a couple of the cities, but not all of them. So I think that you know, whether you want to approve this or not is up to you. I have no input on that, but if you do, I think that you should make clear that you're not agreeing to more than 1/4 of the total cost.
Good, yeah.
And I think that was, this last time, I don't know how many months it was that we had a lobbyist.
I thought it was
Was
for,
4
yeah,
or 6?
I thought it was February through June.
Okay. And that was $18,000. And so we were charged, what, 4,500?
Yeah, it wasn't,
And we paid that, you know, so at that time I don't know if the agreement said, you know, that we were paying accordingly or
I've
what.
never signed an official agreement, to be honest with you. We just, everybody sat down and agreed to it. Basic is what it has. So as far, you're right, Bob, as far as that goes, we do not have a written agreement with it.
Yeah, and this is not going to happen. This is a lawyer, you know, being worried about lawyer stuff. But I mean, the proposal from Winthrop and Weinstein talks about charging the 4 cities a certain amount of money, and it doesn't say how that money is going to be divided up. So I think you ought to just say that. Say that you're, you know, if you want to. I understand that there are going to be some other proposals maybe, and maybe you don't want to approve this tonight. So I mean, I don't want to suggest that you would move forward with this, but at some point when you move forward, I think you're going to want to make clear that you're not agreeing to pay more than 1/4 of the total cost for the lobbying services. That's all I'm saying.
No, and I agree 100% with you. Next time you meet, just turn around and say, well, let's have it in writing, so.
Sure. Yep. Agreed.
No, thank you for that catch.
Yep.
Okay, anything else on that? Okay, the Broadway, 4th and Broadway street improvements, like you say, the curbs are poured in there, but like Jason said, that's pretty self-explanatory, what we have left. But Reese said, you know, I talked to Reese the other day and he turned around and said he wasn't worried about them. He thought for sure they'd be able to get it done, so.
I guess
Yeah,
I'm
you
hoping that in the next week and a half, they can finish things up, and the weather looks good, so.
That's
If we were in cold weather threatening, I'd probably be a little more worried, but they can, even if it's cold, they'll put blankets on the concrete.
For at nighttime, yeah,
Yeah.
just cover it.
Yeah.
No.
So,
Yeah, you look at it, it's not even getting down to freezing, so.
Well, you still can't, it could change in a second,
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's what they're banking on.
I will say that I traveled around last weekend when I had a few days off, and our street projects are way ahead of the other small towns I were in last week. Some of them are not good, they're further behind than us.
Some
So-
have just started.
Exactly, so I'm confident and happy with where we're at, even though it seems like we're lagging behind.
We're just itching to get it done because everybody's screaming at us.
It hasn't been too bad.
Oh, I've been getting it. But that's just with the territory, so. Anything else on the Broadway or Fourth Street?
I don't have anything.
The German Christmas. They wanna know if they can shut Second Street down from Third and Second. Third Avenue, Second Avenue, from corner bar to the bank, and that street in front of the hardware store.
We've done this every year, haven't we? Same
Well,
thing.
last year was the first year we did it.
Remember I just don't remember what we discussed with the liquor license, wasn't it? They were gonna be able to just have, was it,
No hard.
no hard liquor, was
Yep.
it beer or something they were gonna be able, yeah,
Here
sure.
and
'Cause-
there. There's a mixture to make, and I can't remember the name.
That's in the next one though.
Maybe that.
Oh, no, oh, it is, okay, that's what that is.
Yeah, let's just
Oh,
go
we're on
one
that.
at a time here.
We're on, for the street being closed.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that we can close the street for that day. It worked well last year, we didn't have no issues.
So council, can I say one thing?
Yes.
I did talk to Carolyn last week, Todd and I did, and they have applied for a permit through Goodhue County for 2020 when the COVID canceled the German Christmas. They talked to Jess last week at the county and they renewed the permit for this year, so they're in good standing with them in order to close down that street. They have a permit and paid for it, so they're good there.
Okay.
Cause it is a county.
It is a county road, yeah.
That's right, it is. I was thinking it went.
And I just want you to know that
Straight west.
they went through the right procedures and got that taken care of.
Okay,
So
good.
they do have the county. authority.
They do have the county, yeah, unless you guys have a problem with it, the county's been approved.
The hardware store and the other ones that were there, they were fine with it last year.
Right.
Everything, you know, so as long as everybody's okay with it.
I haven't heard anything bad about it.
Well, they offensive enough,
Right,
it's business
yeah.
into them, so.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
So can I get a motion to close the street on December 3rd from 12 to 5?
So,
Second.
Motion made and second for the German Christmas market to close Second Street for, on December 3rd from 12 to 5. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Opposed? Motion's carried. Now we'll get to the liquor license. If they approached you?
Traven called and said that Mitch Brewer would be here, but I'm not seeing him.
Well, we just about have to do it tonight if they're gonna do it, to get it to the state, to get it back.
so probably wanna follow the same guidelines we had last year, right, with no hard liquor.
Yeah,
So if I pull out the contract, that they, and then in agreement that they would sign off on the same thing as what they signed off last year, and, then you'd be okay with moving forward on it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think everything went really well last year down there. Everybody had fun. It was good. It went real well.
So we need a motion to approve the, yes,
Yeah.
do we still say liquor license?
yeah, do it as of, same as last
As
year.
of the same as last year, right?
Right.
So is that a motion?
Yeah.
Do I got a second?
I'll second.
Motion made and second to approve J.C.'s liquor license as of same as last year. All in favor, say aye.
Alright,
Opposed? Motion's carried. Red Wing Tech Solutions. Bob, did you go over that with them?
So that would have been the antenna. This is this is the, a different, thing for the tech solutions is these microphones. So we occasionally, get, comments that people can't hear on the live stream. So we either A, start talking louder, B, take a look at a quote, or different ones. This one just came in from Chris, who's our IT person. And, or have you guys heard anything about other people not being able to hear? I know that the microphone up at the podium and the tall microphone over here, you do have to talk louder into them, just in general. Have you guys heard anything yourselves from people? So, when I play it back, if I miss who did a motion, then I confirm on my notes. I can hear it fine, but it's just been brought up on occasion, and Chris with the IT said that he says that sometimes it is harder to hear. I got a voice that can carry, so I'm not too concerned about mine. So that's just a suggestion, and if you want time to think about it, obviously that's your choice. So.
I mean, if nothing else, instead of spending a bunch of money, I mean, we can have a microphone that can go along, you know, from person to person if we have to.
Yeah, so, or we just bring your voice up one more notch.
Okay.
And I think that maybe should solve, yeah,
Sounds good.
for now,
I know.
until they listen to this one.
Let it go for now.
Sure.
You know, with $1,800, it's a lot of money.
Treasurer's position, have you advertised that?
Yep, so we ran it for this week, and this is what, the job description, and this job description came from Bob. And so Bob and I have had a conversation about the treasurer duties and, how he reads it in the code and how it's done. I don't know if he wants to take part of it and explain this a little bit, but so basically I balance the checkbook because I have to get it into the computer system, and then we have Beth that comes in and then she checks it. So she is our figure person treasurer, and I confirmed this with Dick Gorman also on the reason why we have a separate clerk and a separate treasurer is because it does save us from an additional audit, which we get audited anyways. We get audited on every single level, and the state auditor audits us. We have an insurance audit, et cetera, et cetera. So Beth being a figure person, that we give her the treasurer title is because she physically comes in here and I'm not right directly with her and she's looking at the books. We actually do technically have the separate clerk and the separate treasurer. So when Bob is reading through this, it kind of reads as though I am the clerk and the treasurer, but when we have it established in the situation where she was a figure person standing as the treasurer, then, so we have to make a decision on, want to help me out?
Yeah, so, Mayor, if I may.
Yes.
So, cities like Goodyear, have a person in the position of treasurer, or you can combine those positions. You can have a single person, Jill, or, someone who fills that position, do both duties, do the duties of clerk and treasurer. The thing that Jill's talking about is that where a statutory city, combines those positions into one person that holds both offices, you have to have an annual audit. Your city has to be audited by a separate independent auditing company. I'm told, and Jill has just repeated, that you already do that. You have an annual audit. And so you're already doing what would be required of a city that has combined the positions of clerk and treasurer. And I am told, and I believe from talking to Jill about the things that she does, the things she does routinely include things that the treasurer does, that are duties of the treasurer under the statute that's in your packet. There are things listed there that Jill is doing that are duties of the treasurer. So I assumed, before I was told otherwise, I assumed for a period of time, that although there's nothing in your laws, there's nothing in your code or in your ordinance that says you have combined the positions of clerk and treasurer, I had assumed that you had done that. You're already having an annual audit. Jill is already doing some of the things that are listed for the treasurer to do. So I assumed that you'd already done this. You haven't done this, but I think you need to consider whether you want to do this, because obviously paying two people is more expensive than one. And you have to evaluate, what benefit you're getting from having two positions. If one position, clerk, is doing some of the treasurer duties already, and you're already paying for an annual audit, should you be paying for two positions, or should you just combine those positions into one? And so that's the back conversation that Jill and I have had. I understand that you reached out, Jill, to the former city attorney, right, in saying that the city might have wanted to keep separate clerk position and treasurer position to avoid having to do an annual audit, but you're already doing that, as I understand it. So you're not saving anything by doing that. So
We're not going through an annual audit per se like you're explaining it. We get audited by the state every year just to go through that, but we do not go through an audit, have some audit person come in. The
I
only,
understand that you did do that annually.
no, the only,
Okay, if that's the case, then go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, but the only time we did that is like when we hired a new clerk or a treasurer per se, and that is just to protect them, to make sure we get audited. And we don't do a full audit, they just go in and do a random audit on it. Just to try to protect the city and the clerk, that's all that ever was, and that was only with change of duties. As far as having an audit done every year, no.
Okay, well, I mean, as I understand it, there is a change coming, or an opportunity for a change coming, and so again, I guess this is kind of like my code ordinance thing. I think it's worthy of some consideration whether having an annual audit and having a combined position makes sense. I will just tell you, I think all of the cities that I work with are statutory cities. All of them have combined clerk treasurer positions. And I think the majority, maybe the vast majority of cities in Minnesota have combined clerk treasurer positions and just have annual audits. So that's the way most cities, I think, practice. That's the way most cities operate. That may not be right for Goodhue, I don't know, but I think it's worthy of consideration. So that's the discussion that Jill and I have had.
So my question on that is, an audit's gonna cost about what, 10 grand? What do we pay,
1,200.
I mean, there's quite a difference in money there.
Darn right.
Yeah.
Will we get someone for 1,200?
And that's what I was thinking from the start.
Pretty much.
Well, so with Mayor and Council, I mean, again, this is your decision to make, and it's a policy decision, it's not a legal decision. So, but, I mean, if the delta between what you're doing now is $1,200 versus $10,000, that delta is $8,800. Is it worth $8,800 to have another position versus combining them? I don't know the answer to that question, but it's because I don't know what you paid the treasurer in the past. But if you paid more in benefits and salary than $8,800, because if you have, then having the annual audit would be cheaper. That's not to say it's better, but it would be cheaper to do it that way.
No, and I understand what you were saying, don't get me wrong. And if they did have it together, I can see that. It's just that we were trying to save money for a long time by doing it the way we're doing it.
Yep, understood.
I mean, it's gonna be next council decision anywhere, this council to make it right,
It's gonna be this one, because Beth is gonna be done in December, so.
Well, I mean, yeah, then they could, I mean, it's your people's,
Right.
So,
So what he's trying to say is basically I do it anyways. I do
Everything
the
that's here.
the clerk and the treasurer, and then we have Beth just coming in as the treasurer
reconcile it.
figure to reconcile, to have it, so it is separate, but I have to get it into the program. I'm the only one that holds the program onto my computer, and so then she comes in, and I'm not sitting there, and I'm not persuading her, and she's doing it all while we're in here in council, so that she can be in here and whatnot, so
Yeah.
she's got her eyes on it every month anyway, so.
I guess my only concern is I need to find someone to do that job again for $1,200 a year. I understand it's not like it's large amounts of time.
And so on that same note too, Bob and I have had a discussion that the person does not need to be insured and does not need to be bonded. They just need to have some type of education. They need to have
CPA.
something, and what you feel would be workable for them to come in here. Do you want a high school student to do it? Do you want somebody that has a 2-year degree in something? Do you want a CPA? Do you want an accountant? What do you guys want? You haven't had to hire a treasurer in 17 years, so. And we kind of got to think on that real fast because the ad is running, so.
isn't it kind of a safeguard to have two people looking at these things all the time too?
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, just a situation that I was involved in the past, collecting the funds from the athletic events at the school, and one person was counting them all and then depositing it all. And when we assigned another person to that task, all of a sudden those funds went up
Sure.
that we were
All
getting.
up, so
Because
there's
there
two
was
people
two
checking,
people,
right,
And a
absolutely.
double check.
You know?
There's always safety, I think, in having
Yep.
two people looking at the monies.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm 100% for it, like he said, we have to find somebody to fill a position, that's the tough part.
I mean, that doesn't it say.
Yeah, and Mayor, if I can say to the last point, in many of my cities where the clerk and auditor, I keep saying, clerk and treasurer are combined, it is very common for the city's auditor to annually put in the audit report, you should segregate those duties. You shouldn't have one person that both does the books and then also signs the checks. So that is a very common finding by an auditor in a city that has a combined clerk treasurer position. However, you can have the requirement be that the mayor and the clerk sign the checks. I mean, there are ways to segregate who is spending the money from the person who's doing the books.
Yeah, we got
So,
3 of them,
but you're absolutely right.
we got 3 of them signing right now.
Yeah.
I mean, run the ad, and then come back next month if we get somebody that wants to do it, then.
Yeah, and I guess then to, sorry to cut you off, hiring committee is you two?
I don't think I'm on.
You?
I just appointed her for the police.
For the police one. So like, what qualifications do you want to be able to see would be helpful, because they're gonna be calling me, because that's one of those things on there too. So I'm gonna honestly suggest to you, I mean, if you're gonna have to look at, they have to have a CPA, I mean,
Some type of accounting background.
if you're gonna ask for the whole kit and caboodle, good luck. Good luck. I mean,
And I don't know if you need a CPA or just.
for $1,200 to $100 a month to come and do it, well, I look forward to it. I mean, but
But someone with accounting experience, like, Carrie was saying.
Beth did, how many hours did she spend? Maybe 2 a month?
yeah,
And it
An hour and a
isn't, it isn't much.
no, And, you know, I already have it into the program, and so she's just looking at the bank statements, making sure I have it off the bank statements and into there, and if there's anything that, you know, cause sometimes a 6 got to be a 4, and then she could flag it and be like, hey, you need to change the 6 to a 4, like, this is why I didn't balance, whatever. So I don't technically balance it, I make sure it's all in there, she goes, runs the reports, gets the balance, so. And she's willing to train, but she's done in December, so.
What's the council think, just accounting experience or, you know, CPA?
I mean.
I think a good person would be fine.
Right.
That would be
Anybody that's
interested
gonna come
in
with more
doing it.
qualifications is gonna be more money, you know,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, if there's somebody interested to do it.
Somebody that has numbers,
Yeah,
and
some-
aptitude of something.
No, man, I guess, that's where we're at.
Right, absolutely.
And you'll be able to see that off of the resume too.
It doesn't take a motion or anything, just put it in there.
No, I just wanted to share with you what the conversation that I had with, Bob with, as far as the treasurer clerk separation.
I guess one quick question, same note, have you gotten any phone calls about it?
I have not,
Okay.
but it just hit the paper, for today,
Oh,
yesterday.
okay, gotcha.
Okay. Anybody got anything else in the treasurer's position?
Well,
Goes.
the other thing, if it's only, you know, a couple hours, did you say a couple hours?
A month.
A month.
Mhm.
I mean, there might be somebody who would wanna do that. you know.
Sure.
Maybe as
Well,
old as me, you know, that might
Somebody else just
like
fill
to
some
do
time.
that.
I mean, that's $50 an hour. You know, if you're spending 2 hours and getting $100, so that's pretty good pay.
I mean, don't get me wrong, totally get that, but it's the coming in at 6 o'clock on a Wednesday, randomness. But hopefully, cross your fingers, we get somebody soon. Otherwise, one lucky council gets to sit with me and do it. Just kidding, I don't know.
What do we do with snow reports? I mean,
Probably, I would assume allow me, then,
Then we'd
but
have-
I'm gonna have,
Until somebody does.
I'm gonna have somebody else come and check.
Okay. Snow quote, you guys got your packet, two quotes we have.
And you were saying that these are very similar to what they were last year, maybe a little increase is all,
Yep,
which they have always been, in my past experience, we've considered these as being very reasonable, you know, that they're doing,
they do a good job getting it done.
Right.
doing a job at a reasonable price for the city, so that's just my 2 cents on these, so.
Mm,
Do you kinda hire both of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, what it is, you're doing the quotes, so you don't have to pick from one to the other,
Okay,
but we have to have them approved, make a motion to approve the quotes.
okay.
That's all we really have to do, so, but I wanna make sure everybody's seen what they are.
Can you explain that again? So what typically happens? You approve both quotes?
Yeah, we approve the quotes.
Okay,
It's not a bid, it's quotes.
okay,
So then, like, Tomford Enterprises dump truck's 90 and the other one's 125. Well, a lot of times we'll take them both because to get it done.
yeah, moves a little quicker, obviously.
Yeah, and Nori doesn't have the blower, which Lodemar's has the blower. So that's why we do the quotes and then we can work together with them both.
And what about Fitzgerald? They're hauling as well.
We get them in too when we have a big
Yeah,
snowfall.
right, because I know I've.
For more
you guys have
trucks
gone.
as well.
Yeah, for more trucks.
Cause he doesn't have no bid here, or he
He
doesn't
didn't
need
turn
it?
anything back.
Oh. Oh, okay.
Okay, and so does that affect getting Fitzgerald as we need it?
No, we've
No,
done
we
it,
can
we've
still-
done it
we can-
before.
Okay,
We've had these two quotes, gosh, for,
Many years.
Long
yeah.
as I remember.
yeah.
okay.
But then when we needed Fitzgerald to come in, then he came in, so.
Yeah.
And then they were talking a major snowstorm, that they got more trucks coming, and then they all 3 are working at it.
Yeah, okay.
Used to take them a day and a half to do it, now they do it in a matter of a couple hours.
Yeah, it goes pretty good.
So
I make a motion to approve these quotes.
I'll second.
Motion made and second to approve the snow quotes. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now, here we go. Did you talk to him?
I've talked to Sean every day for the last 2 weeks. So, because there's been more than just a snow issue at the trailer, the property there. Okay, so what he wants us to do, I've talked to him about the snow removal a couple times. He wants us to plow the part of Manor Avenue that is owned by Countryside Manor. He's willing to pay for us to do that. However, myself, I don't feel like we should be plowing that road until it's turned over to us as a city street, because number one, it's not built for a snowplow.
Right.
If we put down the underbody or the blade too far with that heavy plow, we're gonna peel it off, and then who's going to repair it? So I guess it's up to you guys. I know that he has other people that have sent in quotes for snow removal previous years, and you have to bear with me. This is my first year here too, first winter. I'm not entirely sure who plowed that. If it was, I don't know. But being that I've run snow plows before, heavy ones, I do know that a truck that size going through there, I mean, this one's not as heavy as the ones I was familiar with, but with the underbodies, it's very hard to plow a street like that if it's not in very good
Especially if
shape.
you have to do it if it isn't frozen.
Right, exactly.
Oh,
Or
yeah,
if
it's a
you
mess.
hit something, because it's not in the best of shape, and bend something, then we're out because we're plowing for somebody else. Plus, I also think it sets a precedence. If we plow his property, how come we're not plowing this person's property? So I guess it's going to be left up to you guys on what you want to do.
Well, that's what we said before, is why we wouldn't do it.
And also, I have talked to him. He said he has been, and this is on a separate note other than snow, quote, he has not, Reese has contacted him about soil borings and everything. He feels that Reese is too expensive, and he doesn't want to do the soil borings. He thinks we should be able to just patch it for near $30,000. I explained to him, I don't think we can do that. It needs to be completely regraded and utilities taken care of. And that was about all the conversation we had about that, because that's what he has budgeted to fix that road. That's what he wants to put into it.
It's funny, it's the same conversation I had with him. He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to pay anything. He just wants to put a blacktop down on sand if he has to, and then we take care of it, turn it over. I said, we will not take it over unless it's an approved street.
Right, and I explained to him we're not doing it that way because it needs to be rebuilt and the utilities have to be redone. He's just getting his information based on what was told by the contractor that fixed the other street. That's what he says he can come in there and fix it for. The last time I talked to him, this was a week ago, because we've had water issues in there like crazy the last 2 weeks. He says if we're not willing to work with him, he's going to have to take it on upon himself and fix it to his specifications and keep hiring people to do it. But he feels he doesn't have to fix that because not all them properties are owned by him. There's a couple of them in there that are privately owned on the east side of that street. So I think
We've been fighting this issue for years too.
he's been really good to work with. I've had good conversations with him. We've gotten the water problems taken care of, but this here is an issue that needs more work. So I don't know how you guys feel about the snow plowing. I'm not for it.
Yeah, I would say just tell him to find somebody, hire a contractor. I don't, was Tom Enterprises doing it last year?
I don't.
I
Do
can't.
you know Tony? Do you know Kerry?
I think that's what I thought too. I thought they were doing it.
I guess I haven't talked to Jared.
And why he wouldn't just continue to hire somebody else to do it.
It's either him or Derek's, because I know Derek's.
Yep.
Is it Billy?
Yep.
Does some?
Billy does.
One of them. I think one of them too.
I think Jeremy did it with his truck. With his,
Pickup truck. You're probably right.
yeah.
I think he should continue to do that until he can bring that street to any kind of specs where it'd be worth it for us to worry.
I mean, we could maybe. The only thing I would say is if we had a snowstorm and the fire department got a call, said, hey, I can't get in there, can't get a hold of Jeremy, then that would be a different issue. It would be an emergency like we did when we fixed it. Then we could possibly go in there. We have the tractor also. I mean, it's the counties, but that would be a call for the fire department to make if they needed to get a hold of us.
It's a different story.
That's a different story. That would be the only exception I can see to the snowplow thing, is an emergency. So, and if it's a local person that has the bid to do that, I'm sure you could contact them too in an emergency.
Say, Bob,
Yes, sir.
uh,
I'm here.
can I get with you either tomorrow and Friday to talk about some of that? Down there, because we got a big, we got a big issue on that Manor Avenue.
Yeah, I am actually unavailable much of the day tomorrow, although if you picked a particular time, I could sneak out of the
Well,
continuing legal education thing I'm in, but I can be available a lot of the time Friday. We'll talk to you there.
okay, let's go for Friday. I
Sure.
can't promise a time right now, but sometime in the morning.
Okay, yeah, I should be good, kind of, off and on all day Friday, so let's try it.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yeah.
You wanna keep going?
I'll keep going. So I want to talk a little bit about the seal coating I talked about last week with the county. I signed us up for it. I talked to Corey. I got a price per lane mile of what the county got last year for their seal coat bid. I did talk with Reese briefly. It's around $32,000 a mile. I do have a list of streets. I haven't put them together yet that I would like to see seal coated for sure next year. Maybe some possible crack fill before we do it to seal it in the cracks before we put down the seal coat. I'm thinking, Reese and I thought we probably should add between 10 to 20% more cost next year just because of the way things are going, and it's hard to say. It depends on what the county gets, how much they're going to do too. The more they do, the cheaper it is. It could be relatively the same. The county does not need the list of streets yet. Maybe for the next meeting we can have that figured out which ones we got, and Reese has them on the pavement plan.
How about the trail? Are we looking at that at all? I mean,
I guess
right out front here, it's really rough, you know? And I'm not sure if any other parts, if anybody else was on the trail with it. Might be something to look at and see what you think or what, you know?
we could talk about that. I know other communities have done seal coat on them.
I think we've done it in the past.
We have.
Yeah. And,
I guess there are other ways we could maybe go in with some mastic and try to fix some of this too on the trail. But I'd prefer to see some of the streets get done first because they get the heavy use. And maintaining them is important because if you let them go, it's going to cost you way more. And we could look at this too.
Keep it on the list.
Keep it on the
what
list.
they do and, yeah.
What we did before, Jason, is we split it out 4 years.
You did?
And then the 4th year, we turned around and put the trails in it, because that's when this parking lot, that parking lot at Rosie Park got
done.
Because that was on the end of the 4th year.
Okay.
I think it's 4, it might have been 5, but I'm thinking 4.
Well, and we can, like I said, the county doesn't need to know. I'm just looking at what the initial cost was this year, that what they charged, or what their bid was for. And then we can make a list of stuff we need done or prioritize it in the next few weeks. And I'll talk to Corey too and get a deadline when he needs to know so they can come in here and measure this fall so they can get that stuff on their plan. I guess I did write up a report. We talked about the street project. That is what it is, and this is the part, the next part I want to talk about is important. So we started to flush the hydrants last week. We got about a quarter of them done. I got a phone call in the morning saying there's water coming out of the well house. That's never good. So we got up here and the booster pump that runs the chlorine vacuum to put chlorine in the water had blown out. Our system's old and hasn't been updated in many, many years. So we ended up finding a pump we had to stop doing hydrants because without chlorine going into the system, eventually all the residue will be gone and you'll have no protection from anything. So we have not got the hydrants flush. But the other thing I was going to talk about when I talked about the mixer, our water tower fill level, we don't really have a good one for that. All we have is a pressure gauge, and we can do the math and figure it out to know how much water we got in it all the time. However, the only way we got to monitor your water supply is through the gauges and every day writing down the number on the meter that we have. The guy that we had trouble with the variable drive that they put in a year ago, we had to have somebody come down from the cities and do some adjusting on that last week. He was asking me and Todd, well, Todd was here, why we don't have a level monitor on the tower. Something that we can look into. I did do some looking into it. I talked to Zimbrota and Red Wing. They have a place out of Lake City that can set us up with, and I talked to Michael about some of this, like a SCADA type system that you could hook up to your phone to monitor what the flow is, what the level is of the tower. We already are going to have to replace 2 pressure valves that are shot, one in the well house and one on the tower. Neither of them are working properly. So I don't know if this is something you want to get some quotes on and look at, maybe investing something into that so that we have an easier way of monitoring what goes on in there, so we know. And then with the variable dash system we have, it'll be easier to adjust the flow in cold weather and things. I'd much rather see money spent on that than the mixer.
By far, you know?
And go ahead, I'm sure you got anything
And so
to say.
I guess this brings into why I don't think a mixer is truly needed. You know, like Jason was saying, all we were running was on a pressure regulator. So basically, when your pressure in the tower dropped to 56 psi, 58,
Yep.
it knew that you needed to raise back up to 62,
63.
63. So that's the difference. Every foot of water is 0.434 psi. So do the math, and that's what you were changing. Now, basically, if you had a system like Jason's talking about wanting to get, you would have a more visual. Think of literally just looking at a computer screen or TV screen and then telling you what's in there, so that you can easily do it and stuff like that. It just brings a lot better peace of mind and everything. And you know, there are cities still running on this old way, but it's definitely becoming less and less. And I think you're gonna need water. You always need water. It's not going away.
And the thing that scares me, and I don't know if you're aware of this, council, but we have 2 wells. We have this well up here. We have the well over here. That's high in iron. Granted, if that well goes down, we can turn this one on, flush off the iron, and mix the water. However, the treatment system to this well behind us here rotted away 15 years ago. So if the main well were to go down for an extended period of time, you would have no way to put fluoride or chlorine in the water other than crawl the tower and pour it in with a jug.
Oh, wow.
So that's something else you have to think about. Do we want to look into a SCADA system for the current well we have to update that, and maybe coming back to thinking about putting some sort of money into this one, so if we have to run this one, or if we have to mix the water, we have the system ready to go. That's all that we just kind of found out this week. In a way, it's kind of scary when you have a city this size. So it's all
there
things to
was
think
something
about.
in there.
Yeah, and in the last 2 weeks ago, Hawkins Water was here to pick up the old containers, the old chlorine cylinders that were in there from 2008. That was the last time they were used. And they were full, but the regulators were stuck and the caps were on, so they had to take them all back. And that was the last time any of that was used. So there's nothing left out here. Yep, that's all gone. And I'm assuming, I mean, it can be reinstalled. It's going to be at some cost, but it's something that would keeps me up at night, knowing that our other one is outdated. It could easily be giving us problems or not filling correctly. And this one here is old, and doesn't have the capabilities to safely put disinfectants in the water. So, all things we need to think about. I did contact Automated Systems out of Lake City. There's a local guy, Zumbrota recommended them. I didn't get a hold of him. I sent him an email yesterday. So
It's the same guy, right?
Steve,
Yeah,
and I talked to the public works guy tonight from the city of Red Wing. I had a nice conversation with him. He recommended him too. He's a local guy. He lives right outside of town here. His name is Steve. I can't think of his last name.
I couldn't.
He'll come 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning if you have trouble to take care of things. So I can get some quotes for the next meeting and see if that's something you guys want to look into.
It sounds like we have to.
I think it would be
Must,
a great idea.
you know?
And looking into,
Putting in a SCADA system to our current well.
okay, yeah.
Being able to read the levels of the tower like Michael was talking about,
Where we need to start.
and not going with the mixer, because I feel that we can adjust the amount of flow going in and out of that tower is better. Our money is better used towards a SCADA system than a mixer system right now.
And the SCADA system, you know, for the winter aspect too, you don't have the turnover because you're not irrigating, you're not having pools, you're not doing those things. Which also then will also help bring new water in sooner, basically because you're gonna be turning over 4 feet or so in the winter, which then also stabilizes your chlorine levels, your fluoride levels and stuff like that, so they're not going up and down the curve, and they're staying more regulated. So that also helps with having a system like this.
So, and I'll probably have the guy come out here and take a look at things too, to see if he can work our variable drive with his system. I'm assuming they can interchange it. They'll just have to do some engineering. So that's something I'd really like to look into, because I think that's important. I did write on here about Sean. We talked about that. Unless you guys got more questions about the water, I think.
Have you found any records on that well? When was last
Oh, there
time
is
it
well.
was?
It hasn't been that long ago, has it, Carrie?
No, it was just,
2014 maybe?
let's see, I thought it was
15?
5
They're
years.
in there, and I can look, Michael.
So it's about time to pull it again.
Probably.
This
10
one,
years. It'll be 10 years.
this one here hasn't been pulled for,
This one hasn't been run for years.
yeah, the only time we've ever run it is if there's a fire, or when they used to fill the old pool, they ran a bolt for a while so we could fill the pool.
When you had the old tower.
Yep. And
Right.
always with the new tower, I don't think it's been run.
No, and we use enough water. I mean, we're around 100,000 gallons. Even in the winter, we're over 100,000 every day. So we're recirculating water. That's not really an issue with freeze up. It's more or less there's technology there to know that tower's got water in it and things are running good. I think it's time that we look into it, especially with as many people and things we got going on here.
Well, that, just to be able to know that the treating of the water is that simpler is way better.
Right, because we've had a lot of problems with the treating in the old well, or the one we're using now in the last couple of weeks. Spent a lot of time up there. The other thing I might bring up is the booster pump we have, very hard to find. I spent hours last week looking for one. What we have for a setup is old. They do make replacements. They're about $1,200. I don't know if something to look into to have an extra one on the shelf if it goes out, because with the way things are in the supply chain now, it's hard to find them.
Did you get one?
I did finally get one.
New
Well, I
series?
got one and it went to crap 30 seconds later, so I had to get another one. But they took it back, so we got the other one running Monday. So,
And you're saying you need another one of those?
well, it's a good idea, maybe just to have one
Have
in,
one.
on the shelf in case one goes out, because you can't get that kind of stuff like you used to. It's all made overseas. So,
And so basically what a chlorine booster pump does is it takes water, runs it through a pump, so it takes it, instead of where water pressure being 60 psi, it'll boost it up to typically 100, 120 psi, so it then creates a vacuum to suck the chlorine out of the tank and deliver it into the water system. Because the chlorine is gas.
gas. Ours is gas.
Yeah,
You know, chlorine gas.
So,
And ours only runs, the guy that I was talking to, or Todd talked to, he was here on Friday. Ours only runs at 75 psi. Ours is a lower pressure pump. Yep. But we still are getting I mean, we test
Yeah,
every
you still
week.
pulled chlorine with that.
Right, I've actually had to turn it down since we got the new one, cause it's gone up. So, but, something to think about. The other things we worked on, just to keep you updated, closed the pool house bathrooms yesterday for winter. We're gonna keep the Heritage Park open, as long as the weather's nice. We had issue with the flow meter. I ended up getting it repaired, so that's not gonna be a huge cost to us. Found some parts, and that guy was in last week, 2 weeks ago after the meeting. We recalibrated, it's been working fine. I did talk to Empire. They plan on getting us on a schedule to do 4,500 to 5,000 feet of sewer cleaning, mostly just the clay tile. That's all we're gonna do this year. They're super busy, so they're hoping they can get us in before it gets too nasty. Can't guarantee anything. And then the other thing I've been getting a lot of calls about just recently, Jill's gotten a lot of calls. XL was here and moved the power poles. I got a hold of the people that did the boring. They're supposed to come back this week, Friday, possibly Monday, to repair the sidewalks by, oh, it's down on the corner by Megan Jagger's shop and Hay Creek Insurance and by the grocery store. And then by the old Burt's Farm store. If they don't come Friday, we're gonna have to put some more pressure on them, but they're supposed to be here. And then the other things we're working on is just try to finish up the hydrant repair, or not the hydrant repair, the hydrant flushing. And we're gonna mulch and pick up leaves yet, and get the winter stuff ready.
What do you do with them in mulching?
I've been reading articles, it's best to leave them, it's better for the trees. So I've been trying to just chop as many up as I can, and we're probably gonna leave some of them, a smaller layer of them, just for the winter. So, in case people are wondering why we're not picking them up, that's what we're doing.
Yep.
You got any other questions?
I got one. You said you're closing the bathrooms down?
We closed them in the pool.
Yeah. The other thing is, I don't know if the school, have you talked to them about blowing the water lines out for the baseball field?
I did, and they said I don't have to do it. Somebody on the baseball, somebody from the baseball committee or something's gonna do it. Like Mike Curdy, maybe?
I don't know.
I don't know, I did. I talked to him last week.
Because I know that last spring, we had a deal trying to get it working.
Yep, and we weren't supposed to do anything with it. That was all them. So,
We've got to take care of it.
Yeah, I just thought of it when you.
no,
What?
we talked about that last week. We're gonna have a meeting with them also, the school, and different things about plowing snow too. Not to do that, just so we're on the right track, so we know where to push it and stuff, because both of us are new. Probably have Jeremy there also, so we are on the right track with everything.
Okay.
It's all good lots of stuff. They make us spend money.
Well, I hate to make you spend money, but some of that
Pay you
stuff
now
is
or pay you
kind of
later.
important.
Thank you very much, Jason.
Do you want a list, Patricia?
Oh, and it's a big one. Oh, man.
Well, some of that stuff just hasn't been updated in a long time. Got neglected.
So I'd like to just, on this, where are we gonna put the snow when we dump it? I think in the past it's been over by the power plant.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Well, now that goes into the spillway and adds to the runoff there. I just don't know if there's any other place to put it or.
Well,
Not really.
when the overflow, when that fills up out there, they start on Rosie Park.
And we had previous years put down behind the C-store and Egg Park.
Yeah, and egg barns, but that I don't think we'll be able to do, but the other overflow part was the Rosie Park parking lot, since it doesn't get used to spring.
Okay. Well, that still all runs into the
Yep.
spillway, so.
You're still gonna have a lot more capacity out here now. That'll help.
Oh, that's true.
They give people a lot of work.
Yes.
All the eggs.
Oh, a lot of it. Yeah, you're right. It's a lot of it. Okay.
Police updates, they had 2 interviews and they're gonna have 1 more, I heard, today.
And of the 2 candidates we interviewed, one was much more, what would I say, professional, and everybody who listened to the interviews at the time said, yeah, that's the one that would make a better officer for Goodhue. And in fact, he would have been good enough to hire, I think, but we thought we might as well look at the other one too. So, that second one just quick thinking, knew what to do, good answers, and grew up in an ag community, wants to be part of an ag community, and so it just seemed like a real good candidate, so. Yeah.
Okay. I want to thank you, Patrice, since I couldn't make it.
Oh, yeah.
So
Anything.
thank you very much for doing that. Cleaning person's hours.
Can I talk about this one too?
Might as well.
Okay, so I don't know if you guys have met our cleaning lady, Virginia. She's a great lady. Jill and I and Todd and Kyle really enjoy her. She had been coming in early in the morning at 5:30. I know I talked to some of the council members about her coming in early. We do not have a problem with that. It works out well for her because she has a couple jobs and she helps her daughter-in-law with her children. She prefers to come in the morning. She's a great lady. She does a great job. So I think that it would be okay for her to be here. There really isn't anything that she can get into. Everything's locked. I have complete faith that she is perfectly fine to be in here before we're here in the morning. She locks the door, has it locked up every morning when we come in.
So I brought this up, and, I know Jason talked to me about it, and, if that's his recommendation, I can go with that. The only reason I brought it up is because I thought the council had said, that she wasn't supposed to be in here when nobody else is, but I can go with his recommendation on that.
And I talked to her about it, and she prefers to come here in the morning. I know Jill had a conversation with her too today.
Yeah, like he had mentioned, she lost her son, so she's helping her daughter-in-law raise kids. She does a lot. So she's been part of this community.
Oh, she's a great lady.
She's great. I mean,
and she does a great job. I mean,
yeah,
spotless.
I guess you were in your office, and I know Tony was trying to be in his office, and Kyle was too, here at the 2 o'clock hour or the 1:30 hour when we were listening to the vacuum cleaner and the mopping and all of that stuff. Yeah, so it's a little more challenging if we were to move her during our day hours. So
she can get more information by listening to us talk than being here in the morning.
I've known her a long time. I used to service her lawnmower and stuff for many years. I've known her many years. I don't have a problem with her, and I guess so. It's working out for everybody else, and she's doing a good job at it. I'm fine with it.
Perfect.
No problem.
And then we'll contact her tomorrow.
and so typically her hours would be 5:30 to 7:30 on Wednesdays is what she has picked. So, and that overlaps with Jason's times, and sometimes it overlaps. If there's a possibility that it could overlap with the police department too, if they're here that long.
She's really good, though. She finishes out here, so she's not in our space.
So, meaning if there's always somebody within a reasonable amount of time. She's not totally left unattended here for the 2 hours by herself for safety too, I know.
I think you got the council's approval.
Thank you.
Canvas election results, Friday, November 11th.
So the November 8th is the elections. The state will not have them canvassed until the 10th. Therefore, then they give them back to the county. So they're not available to us until the earliest is the 11th of November, which is Veterans Day. City Hall is closed. Doesn't mean that I can't come in and canvass it. It's literally gonna take to call the meeting to order to tell you what the official results are, and that would be the only discussion. So that would be the earliest. They're not gonna get it to us until sometime on the 10th. So I can't tell you it's gonna be 10 o'clock, and I can't tell you if it's gonna be 4 o'clock. So we're just gonna go with the earliest would be the 11th, it was a Friday. Otherwise, we're looking at next week, so the following week, so the 14th is just the first 2 days. So you certainly can pick any day of the next week, but it has to be done on the 11th through the 18th. So you either have Friday to Friday.
And now, does it have to be a full council? Or who?
A minimum of 3.
A minimum of 3 to call a meeting.
True, okay, yes, correct.
So it would be a less than 15-minute special meeting to show up and
Oh, I see.
read the results.
With work.
Yeah, I'll get the day on.
No, that'd be fun. We could do it with 4 of us or 3 of us or.
I would work that day, but I could be here, by 5.
Yeah, I mean, so if you want it on the 11th, that's fine. Otherwise, we can go to Monday, the 18th. By then you're all going to be able to read on the Secretary of State's office website who it is, but that's what we officially have to do. So it doesn't have to be pressing to be on the 11th.
So you're gonna do it on 11th at what time?
That's up to you.
Wayne, you can be here at 5?
Yeah.
Well, it should be easier for you, Michael, too.
Yeah, I could make that work, I think.
Okay, let's do it at 5.
5 o'clock on the 11th?
Yep.
You'll send us another.
Send you a reminder.
Because the 18th, I won't be here.
Okay.
And I need to be here for that or not?
You wouldn't have to if
Okay,
I got these,
Yep,
yeah.
that's perfect.
Yep.
'Cause I usually can't get done. I don't know
Yep,
what
that's
I'm
fine.
doing. Okay, that's perfect.
You'll know the results by then.
I'll stop in and check it out if I'm on board. You just never know, especially this time.
And they put that on there, it's the only thing we can talk about.
Yep. Okay.
Okay. Mayor's concerns is, she's got them down here. The 9th, I will not be here, so Wayne will be acting mayor. And cancel the second meeting in November and the second meeting in December. One's the day before Thanksgiving, and
Just the same thing we did last year.
we've done it since I've been on the council for 26
Yeah,
years.
yeah, it worked well last year. We didn't have no trouble doing that.
The only thing with that is, and it hasn't been a problem, is that it would be the final levy, which,
Oh,
Well, the final levy, we usually do the first one in December.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
anything that would be in the second gets moved up there, but, that's one of those things that just moves up the deadlines of the things, so, but they might be a little more jam-packed, but it's not like it's gonna be huge. We're winding down the year, so.
I was gonna say, usually the December meeting isn't that much
Yeah.
that we've had, so. And the other one, I don't even know if I'll make the December meeting, cause I'm having knee surgery on the 17th, so. I might see if I can go Zoom if I can't be here. Any council concerns? That's why I got this.
Yeah.
Well, we can go into public concerns.
Yeah.
There's 2.
Oh, no.
Oh, that's right.
Peter, you got anything?
No.
Okay.
Just be more you have to write down.
No, I have a question, and I'll wait till after the meeting.
Okay. Okay, can I get a motion to pay the bills?
I didn't get a chance to, I went through them a little bit here and everything was like it's pretty good to me.
I just had a question on the receipts, page 101. You talked about the sewage facility fund. And there was some money taken out of it. are we putting any money into it? I know we're.
Are you talking about this page here, yep,
Yes, yeah, down at the bottom there.
yep, so we do fund-to-fund transfers at the end of the year. Let's see, I gotta follow my line across, I don't have my ruler. Yeah, so right now you have, yeah, you had the 125,000 is what you started in there. Carrie, do you know if you, I don't know in particular, because I don't recall doing a fund transfer, and if I did, it was only because I was only a week or two on the job last year. But I can get updated on that.
Well, wasn't that when we had the problems right away before Jason started?
Are you talking about the facility fund, Patrice? The one that has 125?
Yes.
Okay, so Carrie, that would be the one, like, if we went to North Jonesboro District.
Oh, yeah.
So that 125, did you set an amount that you transferred there every year? I think is that your question?
Kind of, yeah.
That could be
Where did
to
that
pay for our legal
Well-
stuff and that we were doing for that lobbyist. That was different yet, though.
So Patrice, what I can, sorry, go ahead.
I said, why we started that fund years ago,
Mhm.
we were talking about the sewer plant.
Yep.
And how if we didn't have any money set
Mhm.
aside, the state wouldn't help us.
Yep.
So at a meeting, I said, we need to raise our sewage fees at
Yep.
least enough so that we're accumulating, and I
Sure.
believe it was $25,000 a year.
Okay,
So that if we had to go to the state and get help, yes, we put money aside for it.
sure.
Now, in this situation, where things could be changing, I think maybe that fund would be available as needed for this,
But there was a 294 taken out of it. That's what I'm trying to figure
Yeah,
out
that's
why we
right,
would have done that.
294.67, that's,
More, yeah.
it's right, it's under disbursements.
Oh, yeah.
If you run across, straight across.
Okay, we took that out, yeah.
And I wonder if that wasn't when we first started getting advice before we went to a lobbyist.
Yeah. So I think we have a couple things going on here. One, I can look in to see what we did for a fund transfer last year, if we did anything to go into here. Two, I can come up with, because we do interface funds at the end of the year. And those are like negotiable, they're nothing that has been said. But what has been done in the past, I obviously need to get, it'll be my first official year trying to do it myself, but Lori's always in earshot away. But if we find that there is nothing that we've set going there, then that's when you can state that you want to make $25,000 to go to here so you can continue to do it. Does that answer both your questions then? So I'll have some fund transfer information for next council. Okay. It's a lot after a while.
I know it.
Try starting new.
Yeah,
Oh, no.
usually I've got a handle on it.
I was curious, why were there so many voided checks?
Yeah, I looked at that too.
Kept writing the wrong name or something? No worries.
Okay, no, legitimately, when you take the checks out of this box, and then I'm doing a whole bunch of them, so say I'm doing 10. I have to count out 10, and then I have to sort them going this way and flipping them, okay? And then I'm taking them, and then I have to take them to the printer and going like this. And then there's other people that are connected to my computer. So when they're printing, then all of a sudden they're printing on my checks. So
Oh.
it's one of those things, it's just like, hey, don't print, I gotta do my checks.
Okay.
Because my checks don't sit in the computer. So all of a sudden, they come out void. And so then I have to hit void, and then when Beth comes in, she knows that they're cleared, that they've never gone to the bank.
Yeah, okay.
So they're in the drawer with a packet of the other bills, so. Yep.
Okay, can
I knew there was a good explanation for it, just wasn't sure what that was.
Did a good job explaining it.
Yeah, well, it happens, it's,
Can I get a motion to pay the bills in?
I so moved.
Second.
Motion made and second, pay the bills. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion's carried. I have one more concern I was gonna bring up, I forgot about it. The garbage dumpster at the Lions building. The Lions pay for that whole dumpster and they're getting like $200 and some every,
240.
yeah. And we're just kinda wondering, the city, that's where you put your,
That's what I was always told, that was our dumpster.
yeah, I know, but I'm just, and I don't have an issue with that at all. But I'm thinking the city should be, maybe help that out a little
But
bit.
they came to me today and talked about that. I talked to some Lions members that they want us to come up with a plan, like you're saying,
And that's what I'm bringing up, yeah.
to bring that up at the next council meeting possibly, or if you wanna bring it up now.
I just-
talked to 2 of them today.
And we had a meeting on Monday and I said I'd bring it up in council meeting, I just about forgot about it.
Okay, so if I can explain
Yeah.
a little bit too,
We
so.
briefly talked about it, Jill and I.
So we briefly talked about it, so I pulled back their account and I did not print anything, cause literally this is coming in at 3:45. I flipped back to their account, so from 2011, their bill was like $211. So if we see what, $29 change from whatever month in 2011 to 2022 is $240. Now that is the total bill. That is not what the garbage is. They are getting charged was it $42 for commercial?
I think that's the
Okay,
deal.
so it's $42. Okay, so if we're gonna go and break that down, there's multiple things that we have to look at: sewer, water, trash, because that's what everybody's invoices is at. Okay. My first conversation piece was with Jason is the city does own the building. Okay.
Mhm.
The Lions Club hosts their meetings there. They have other things that go in there. They hold the calendar. They do the rental out of the insurance building. We have nothing to do with that. So their water is metered because we get a manual
Yeah,
commercial read off of
they-
it.
They went through all that. The water was like $20 some.
Right.
And then the sewer was 42, I think.
Yep. And that's what standard is.
You know, so you're looking at 60, but they were just wondering if there's some way of splitting the dumpsters cost. They don't want, the rest of it, they don't have an issue with.
Right. So, and so then we're talking about $40, but I'm just sharing what I know. Okay. I'm not putting down the Lions. I'm not saying you obviously make the decisions, but we don't know, we as a worker here and as Jason, that we're hearing about this, we don't run the calendar for them. Whereas at Rosie Park, Jason would know who's at Rosie Park and how fast he needs to get up there, get those garbage cans taken care of, right? So if we know how often they rent out that building space, you know, and so like August when they have, or September when they have their chicken barbecue, all those, you know, that dumpster is completely full. There's going to be other times that it's completely full. If they want to downsize it, that's what they can do too. But then,
Okay, here's the question on that. Out here, around town, where do them bags go?
They all go in there.
They all go into that dumpster.
right,
So that's what, so you're taking from all over town, putting that dumpster, you're saying Lions would pay it.
I'm not saying that at all. I'm explaining that the whole entire bill, because how,
No, but you see, all I'm asking,
And
you
so-
and I'll sit down and
no, we can have the discussion here, because how it's been presented to me on the telephone is that they're complaining that they have to pay such a large bill, and their large bill is $240 to $280, which has never been $280. And this is how it's been since 2011. So I think that the council needs to be aware of the fact that this is how it's been for a very long time. And
they
there's-
finally caught it.
Okay, so the council needs to be aware of this. And Jason,
Can't the city,
also-
can't we just get our own dumpster
So
somewhere?
here's what happened. At 5 o'clock, this happened at 3:30. I came in and told Jill, I'm like, can we talk about it? We both decided, hey, let's not add any more on tonight, we've been here long enough. 5 o'clock calls, I got another phone call. I talked to them about it, it was a great conversation. They're saying what Carrie's saying, they're saying, we don't have a problem with you putting the trash in there, can you share some of the cost? And I said, okay, I said, that's fine. I said, I don't plan on bringing it up at the council meeting tonight, because it's too late to add it on to this week's agenda. Then you brought it up, because it is a mayor concern, which is right, because you knew about it. Basically, I was told the same thing from the treasurer. He doesn't have a problem with us using it, he would like it if the city would maybe put some money into it. I said to him,
And that's all, that's what I was asking,
But-
that's all, that just for
Right.
the dumpster part.
just for the dumpster part. Then I told him, I said, well, I said, it may be a possibility that you need to attend the next meeting to go over this, because there are options, and I was gonna talk to Jill about it, and I was gonna bring it up at the next council meeting. I took a whole pickup load of trash from the track meet last week that was in our parks. Now, I know some of that's the schools, they also got half a load of garbage in their dumpster that we picked up. We do pick up about a pickup load a week in the summertime, year round, through the garbages. They are used a lot. So it is true that it has increased a lot this year, and I don't know if that's just because people are using our facilities more, or I did put out more trash cans, I put out 3 more, just to keep stuff cleaned up. So I was gonna talk to Jill and possibly the Lions again, because I said I'll get back to you. Maybe we need to come up with a plan for a dumpster ourselves and put it. But the problem with that is, everybody's gonna be dumping in there, because they have that problem too.
I was gonna say, the other problem
We're
is,
gonna have to lock.
everybody in town wants to get rid of something, just take down lines, and throw it in the
Well,
dumpster.
and that
Exactly.
was
And
part
that's
of
the
my
problem.
point right there, is everybody is using it too.
But we
Why
can
don't they
totally,
lock it?
Well, then,
they don't, we could totally
Why
get our
is
own
it?
dumpster and put it down by the sewer plant, or next to that shed down there, so it's not sitting here out of the way. Lock the thing, and the only people that have a key would be us staff members.
City Hall can have
City
one
Hall
set
can
up
have the
here.
key in here.
But you're gonna have to make sure that the dump truck service has it, and there's always a different driver.
Right.
We went through this
Jill, we
whole,
already know, we talked to Todd and I already talked about it, because he knew what we were talking about, he goes,
Right.
that's gonna be the problem. So,
and that's gonna be a major problem, because that's why we were missing streets, is because there's always a different driver.
right,
So that's why I
Should we
asked.
put this on the agenda for next time? or-
Well, obviously we can, but I'm saying, if you wanted to go down to a smaller dumpster, just a garbage can,
we can't, we have to have a
No,
dumpster.
we'd have to have
for,
something.
you guys are not even listening, letting me finish talking.
Sorry, Jill.
I'm done with it.
Okay.
You and I are gonna sit down, and we'll
If you
discuss
gave
it.
them a dumpster, a trash can at their facility only for the Lions Club, and got your own garbage can or dumpster and moved it to another location. But I'm just sharing with you, when I get the phone calls and they're complaining that it's over $250, I'm the one that's taking it, not a one of you.
We
Okay,
just tell them we're not gonna use it.
okay, that's
Yeah.
enough.
Yep.
I'll come in and where we can sit down and talk sensible. Can I get a motion to adjourn, please?
So moved.
Motion's carried.
I just think